Hi everyone, welcome to my Shoreline Studio. I'm Sybille Muschik, and with me behind the camera as usual is Joshua Blanc. Today we're working with a bunch of mixed media, and I want to show you an image that of some of the photographs we took last Sunday evening. We had this wonderful vermilion glow in the sky, and it was reflected on the water. So that's the water background that I'm showing you. And then the silhouetted leaves. So if we get to it, we will be putting some typography in the center there if all goes well. You know what transfers are like. Sometimes they work, sometimes it's hopeless, but we will give it our best shot. We're going to start with different media today. And these are my distress crayons. And I've just started using them a bit. I wasn't quite sure what they were useful for. And one of those impulse things you buy on art supplies. I try not to do that too often. But we're going to start with some color areas, and then we're going to do some line work. So again, a little bit of intuitive work. And so come and join me for a bit of art fun, and get your distress crayons out and let's have a go. So we're going to start with the yellow, going from lighter to darker. And these things are just amazing. So I'm just going to do a bunch of line work, maybe some areas that have a little more color. This is watercolor paper, dry so far. We're going to be wetting it. I'm not going to put too much yellow on. It's kind of brilliant, but you want to be sure to leave some of the whites. We'll work with mostly analogous colors, so those are colors that are close in value and range here. And so right now they just look like crayons, don't they? And this is Fabriano watercolor paper. So it is a little softer. I haven't put it under the sink to get rid of some of the starches. Sometimes watercolor people do that. And a little bit of pink, maybe some picked raspberry. There you go. Just going to do some color areas, maybe some lines. I'm not thinking about things as we speak, and then we're just going to play with the media. And we'll see how we can work with this. So you can scrape it, smooth it down. So it works a lot like a crayon. If you have any buildup on your painting knife, you can just smooch it on. You can do some sgraffito. So what is that? It is just making lines, scraping, gouging the paper. When you wet the paper, the color will sink into those lines. Okay, so I want to put the darks in last. Right now we're just going to spray it and see what happens if we add some, not all of it. We just want to show how this stuff works. So it works a lot like watercolor in a way once you start adding water. So it will blend, it will smooth, and you can still see some of the line work. By sticking to analogous colors, we're not going to be making a lot of mud. If I introduced green now, then we would have some muddy colors, which we don't want. Okay, let's see how smudging works. So you can, some people use their fingers and rub like that. This is watercolor paper, so it's not so easy to do. So we can sort of polish it and rub it a bit. so it stays pretty discreet. On smoother paper, this will become more diffused, but this is the 140-pound Fabriano paper, which has, this is a smooth side, but you can see the texture. So you can also scrub. You should be able to scrub it back to practically white. So we'll take some of this off. It's really fun stuff to play with. I'm going to continue just adding water. And scrubbing back. Basically what I want is a background, interesting kind of texture, some color passages. And let's try and keep that as white as possible here too. So we have some interesting line work, and we've scrubbed back some areas. Okay. Now I'm going to add some of our graphite. This is the 9B. I sent for this recently. It's made in Germany by Faber-Castell. It's 9B and Graphite Pure. It's PITT, P-I-T-T. So now we're just going to add a little bit of line work. We won't use the water-soluble one. It will just get too dark. And I want to keep a fair amount of a light background here. We're going to be putting other layers over top. I'm not sure our sgraffito pieces will show up. And just have fun with this. Just go for it. You can have darker areas if you want. Do some cross-hatching. Just play. Okay. Now, do we need to scrub anything more? Do we need to gouge anything more? Let's see what we can do here. I'm just going to mutilate the paper. I'm going to run some water over top of these scratch marks to see if some of the color will just go over top of that, and if they're going to show up at all. The paper will have to dry before we proceed to the next step. That won't take very long. Grab yourself a cup of coffee and we'll be right back. And we're back. All right, just going to put a little bit of, this is Deep Magenta, Artist's Loft. I have it on here. This is Light Rose, Amsterdam, and Naples Yellow, although it looks more orangey. And this is Azo Yellow Deep, also an Amsterdam color. We're going to roll it out on our plate. And I'm not going to mix it very much. I also have some of the satin glazing liquid. I usually put on there. It really does make your paint dry a lot less quite quickly. So just rolling it out. It's going to be just a light layer. What I want is that sort of a vermilion color. Just a little bit more of this violet tone in there. And that will set our drawing back a little bit. Remember to keep this very light. We're just going to take everything down a step. Okay, so lining it up is nice. Don't have to register this today. And of course, lots of people have been asking about the baren, or baren, however you want to call it. Here's the box for it. It's Speedball 4-inch baren for block printing. And there's the name of it. And now its price I don't know, because a long time ago when I bought this one, I won't even say how long. It saves your hand, and you can really put some muscle, especially since it's watercolor paper, and it has a bit of a texture, so lots of arm strength required. Let's have a look. And we have a nice pale layer. Isn't that lovely? So I have here the image that I showed you earlier, and we're putting some tracing paper on top. And I've already redrawn some of the lines. You just have to darken it again. And I'm just going to show you a few of them. I haven't followed the image that precisely. Not really worried about all the little spaces and things, so, and some of the things that are going off. Just making sure all the lines have a lot of graphite so that it transfers well. And just checking, see if I missed anything. This is the 9B Faber-Castell, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, so now back to the plate. I'll try not to rattle all the papers too much. Place your drawing on top of your gel plate, all in one go, if you can. Sticks like crazy right away. And make sure you have as much of the graphite as possible. Give it a quick peek to see whether it's transferred. Yes, it has. Oh, here it's a bit. Whoops. All right, just a bit here. Maybe that was a line I hadn't redrawn. Okay, and a little bit there. When you're doing a transfer, like a photo transfer, you can't do this because the image just disappears. But with graphite, it's all possible. You could probably even correct anything if you wanted to and put it back on and reposition it. So now we have this, and now we have to put a layer on here so that it will transfer to our image. So you can use mostly the satin glazing liquid if you want. That transfers it quite well, but we can use a little bit of color. Maybe we'll use the pink. Pink or white will do. Keep it very light. So you want the graphite to show up. This Amsterdam paint is just lovely. It has a lot of saturation. The colors are very brilliant. We actually have to take some of this off. Again, like any transfer, you need to make sure you see the image. Take as much off as you can. All it does is re-wet the surface so that the image can transfer. So back to our watercolor paper. This time we'll line it up. And see, I think that's pretty close. And if we're really lucky, our graphite drawing is transferred. No, it's all skill, isn't it? Not so much luck. And the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. And so I actually haven't been doing graphite transfers a lot yet, but I'm getting there. The late hours. I'm not a dove, I'm a night owl. Okay. And that's lovely. Okay. So now the next step is to use our graphite pencils as a color base and take a brush and sort of tone that. So again, a small break and then we will get at it. Okay, break over, put the cup down, we're back to work here. Okay, so next step, we're back to our sketch and wash, general sketch and wash. This is a water-soluble graphite pencil. And we're just going to lightly do some line work here. And then we're going to just take a brush and give it a bit of tone. We'll see how much we have to cover for it to work. I'm using a sideways kind of slanted line here. If it shows, it does look very nice. Illustrators often use this kind of, especially architectural illustrators. Mind you, they don't scribble, they probably do every line precisely. The whole point is to create a silhouette type of image here with all that interesting line work in the background. And I won't talk much during this so that we can speed it up and get through it. You, of course, at home, if you're doing this, will take your time and do a good job, right? And it helps to have that acrylic layer between the Derwent crayons, because you'd be activating them again. So this way they stay put. So mixed media is sometimes really worthwhile. And basically all we want here is sort of a shadow effect. You probably won't see much of the line work. We will have to let dry and let's see what happens. I have a few little spaces here I have to be aware of. You could use a smaller brush. I like working big and bold. I'm not a high realist painter. I don't use many little brushes. Should always paint with the biggest brush that you can, and then finish off with little details in the end. Now that's pretty good. So I think we get that effect, that silhouette effect that we're working for. So I just want to outline it a little bit more. I'm just going to wet my graphite pencil here. Just to make it look more like leaf shapes. And we did have a bit of bleed through from the crayons, yeah, the yellow, but that's okay. By redrawing this, it just adds a bit of pizzazz to our silhouette. You can add a few details if you want. Okay, I think that pretty well does it. And again, we have to let this dry. So I'm using baby oil to clean off my plate for the transfer. It has to be really spiffy clean, that helps. And no greasy film either. So the oil has to be, this gets rid of the graphite really well. And then just need a bit of water. Be sure and put your lid on your baby oil. You wouldn't want that spilling all over the place. And we're just going to use black for the transfer. I have double printed because my printer ink is not the best kind. My transfers, unlike Nitsa Malik, who does wonderful transfers, don't often turn out that well because of the problem with the lack of pigment in the printing ink. I have a bad habit of stopping partway through what I'm thinking and then finishing it about half an hour later. It is there. I haven't forgotten about it. I'm just thinking about something else I have to do. Fine. Okay, so now we do the black. And the best one here is the Amsterdam black. Now this is, which black is this one? Oh gosh, I can't read it. It's so oxide black. 2-point type. And I'm just going to add a tiny bit of my glazing liquid, not much. And we're going to roll it out. And you need just enough and not too much. There is sort of a fine line there that you get used to. If you take off too much ink, your type is going to be too pale. If you have too much on there, it's not going to transfer at all. So it's one of those Goldilocks things where it's just right. So here's my poem, and we have to move it over there. Hopefully that will do. And then I have a sheet of paper for all of it. And we're just going to baren it and hope for the best here. I don't know if it's over too far. Nope. And clean up your plate. Now this is a tricky part because it's hard to know where to place it. We have to make sure that the whole poem, including the author, I did one where poor Robert got lost. It'll be in, but we all know this poem, right? Now, I didn't put a release code on this. It should print. It printed for all my other ones. But then you never know. We might have to do this again. Okay. Oh my goodness. Ta-da! Well, it's a little slanted, but that's okay. So we got our poem in. So this is a perfect journal piece again, and lots of steps, but it's fun and interesting, and I hope you'll try it and enjoy it as much as I did. So come and join us again for an interesting session here at Shoreline Studio, and be sure to like and subscribe to help our channel grow. And I don't know if we have a bell. If there's a bell, please click on the bell. If not, we'll find one and put one on. All right, take care for now. Take care of your families and yourselves. Have fun with art, and we'll see you another time. Bye for now.